Congratulations on this EP. I've had a chance to sit down and take a listen to it, and it's amazing. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you, David. I really appreciate that. Jeez, thank you so much.
So tell us a little bit about how this came about for you to start working on this EP, because I understand that you started working on it right at the very start of the pandemic.
Yes. So there was three of us, and we were kind of just. It was much more of like drone rock, I guess you would call it, and it kind of started evolving more and more into more song structures. But then, as you know, we all kind of started talking with other people, with like, oh, as soon as the pandemic's over, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And, we just kind of had all these great ideas. And then all of a sudden, things started to lift and people got busy with other projects, myself included. And I just felt like these songs really meant something, and they need to have their proper place in the world. So I just took it upon myself to, reorganize it all into drum machines and such, and here we are.
Was that a pretty big project then, turning it into a solo project? Did you find that took up a lot of time for you?
It really did, Dave. It was a lot of effort to try to reimagine everything from a singular point of view, because in a band situation, you're so used to playing off of each other and having those cues and signals and such. And when it all gets distilled into one person, you got to think about how would I want the drummer to react this way? How would I want the bass player to react this way? And then it's just it all kind of had to get reformulated, and then you got to perform it, which is also a different kind of a challenge, as you can imagine.
Definitely. How do you prepare for that? How do you prepare to perform these tracks as a solo artist?
Well, I have the drum machine set up, and then I have a chrome-looking mannequin that I set up on the stage with me, and then it's just myself, drum machine, guitar, and vocals. But I know that people need a show when they go see bands perform. They want a show, so that's why I try to have some more lights. I have that chrome-looking mannequin back there, so people have something else to look at besides this guy just kind of wanking around for about 30 or 45 minutes on stage.
Yeah. And what kind of things were inspiring you when you first started to work on this material? Because at the very start of the pandemic, everybody was in kind of a really strange frame of mind. That's how I found it here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It was very much the same here. Everyone was kind of wondering what was going to happen next. And won't this be over soon? A lot of that kind of thinking. But I guess the main thought of it all was just trying to, Dave, I don't know. It was just trying to pull it all together and hope it all would come together. It was a really difficult time for sure, because it was a lot of isolation.
Yeah.
On top of others who didn't care about that, and we saw a lot of friends pass away because of that.
I was going to ask that. How did that isolation also affect the way that you put the music together? Because I know here a lot of musicians had to record at home, which a few of them had never done before because they couldn't go into studios. How did those things change for you?
Well, luckily, I'm used to recording in my apartment, because I have most everything in the apartment already. And I'm used to just doing demos, sending them to the band members, and then we kind of hash it out in real time. So it was odd because, Dave, I would put the demos together, send it to the band, and then we would perform at the rehearsal studio and do live streams and such. And then when things started to lift and people started to do their own things, I just took those original demos and just kind of distilled all of that. So yeah, it was not a difficult process, because I basically was working in reverse.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And you mentioned, of course, that you've got other projects going as well. Where do you see the future for this music? Like, is this something that you would like to keep doing on the side and enhance that as well?
Absolutely. I think this is going to be the main thing. The other projects, one was called Baby Birds, and that was much more person to kind of help me pull all that together. And that person now has moved to a different city and is working on soundtracks and such. So I've kind of lost that side, that creative person that I needed with me. So at this point, it looks like I'd love to dedicate myself to doing the Stockhausen and the Amplified Riot.
Definitely. And how does things look for you there at the moment as well, like with the pandemic? Because here in Melbourne, we're still in lockdown, and what looks like we will be until October 30th. Has things opened back up for you there now?
You know, I was going to ask you the same thing. I've heard so many crazy stories about riots, people like attacking the police in especially in like the Melbourne area. Just people like rioting about the lockdown, and over here, I'm in Texas, and so our governor is very much an anti-masker. He's also very anti-women's rights and so on. So he's a bit on that side of the spectrum, and so there's a lot of people here in Texas who are also very much like, well, I don't care about no mask. I'm going to just do whatever I want to do, and don't you dare tell me how to do my job or do whatever I want. It's my personal freedom.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that. So that's a little scary because I have two sons, and they have not been vaccinated yet because they're not old enough to receive the vaccine. So I have to be very careful about who I'm with.
Yeah, we did have riots here. We're still having some riots here as well. So we had riots, first of all, because people wanted the lockdown to end, and then we had riots because the government, our state government, passed the law that certain occupations would need to have the vaccination before they could go back to work. But really what's happened is those riots have pretty much been fueled by neo-Nazi groups that want to go out and start fights and start riots at any time of day, and they've just used it as an excuse, really.
God. So I wondered about that. I was like, is this a media-fueled kind of frenzy, or what's really behind all this? It just seemed kind of, something was a little off-kilter there, if you will.
Yeah, look, to be honest, a certain media mogul by the name of Murdoch hasn't helped. Because, every time... he supports the Liberal Party here in Australia, and our state premier is a Labor member. So anything that he's made a decision about when it comes to the pandemic, apparently, according to Murdoch Press, has been wrong. So yeah, that certainly hasn't helped. And of course, Murdoch's fans are a lot of these neo-Nazi guys. So yeah, that's fueled the riots pretty badly.
God, it's just terrifying.
Yeah. But with things like that going on in the world, do you use that then in your music as well? Like, are you the kind of person that can actually sit down and put those feelings into music?
I do, but I also don't want it to be... I don't want the lyrics to be so dated. Like, oh, that was from that point in time. I would love to see, and I strive to keep the lyrics very... They could be applied to several different situations. However... the spark came from this particular incident. I do have, some more new material, and one of the new songs is called "What If It Never Ends," and that kind of is applied to here. That also can be applied to just a really bad relationship, and just that kind of relationship with some kind of nebulous thing, and it never will go away. And what if it never goes away? Then what do you do? I have those kind of thoughts behind the lyrics and crafting the lyrics.
Yeah.
So like Animal Night Train it's about a friend of mine named Charlie Andrus who accidentally overdosed, but he was on a really strong trajectory in his music career. Things were really starting to take off, and he was going up that ladder. This is great. I was so happy for him, and then he accidentally overdosed, and then that was the end. It just, to me, it was just like, oh, that happens to too many people too often. That's kind of where I draw my inspiration.
Yeah. Do you find writing from the heart like that quite easy? Because I know for myself as a writer, sometimes I find writing from the heart really easy, and other times I find it really difficult.
It is extremely difficult. Because I don't want to sound, no matter what project I had been working on in the past, or right now with Stockhouse. Like, I don't want to sound corny and cheesy, and I feel there's a lot of pressure to like say something so profound or something. And really, I'm just trying to say something that's very meaningful to me. So when I'm singing it, I feel it in my chest and in my heart. But it's tough. I'm not a lyricist. I'm not a lyricist at all. I'm much more comfortable writing the music. But I do have a deck of cards called Oblique Strategies. And that was a deck of cards created by Brian Eno back in the mid-'70s. And it's just these thoughts and these kind of like match point type of, or flashpoint kind of cards. You pull out a card and it says, try doing it in reverse. So, think about what you're doing, or is that mistake, was that mistake a mistake after all? Was it actually something that needed to happen so you could continue to create? It's things like that is what the Oblique Strategies is all about. And sometimes I would pull out one of those cards and just kind of look at it, pull out a few of them, and then kind of just think about it and then start writing again.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit too about the artwork with this EP, because I understand that you're the man responsible for that artwork as well.
Indeed. That plane crash is up in Iceland. It's Jotunheim, I believe is what the name of the area is called up in Iceland. And it's a DC-9 that it had a bunch of soldiers on it and whatnot, and it was in the mid-'70s, and it just malfunctioned, and they kind of crash-landed onto this barren part of Iceland. And nobody was killed. Everybody was fine. But the Navy came by, picked them up, and they basically told Iceland, hey, sorry about this plane we wrecked on your island. We'll come pick it up later. And they never did.
Wow.
And so it's kind of become this interesting allegory of life, of like this at one time, this mechanical marvel just abandoned in this remote area of the world, and time just kind of wears it down. And I found like, this is it. This is, I saw that image and I thought, this represents what I'm feeling right now.
Yep. Well, mate, we are going to play Animal Night Train on our show again right now. So is there anything you'd like to say to our listeners out there, not only before they listen to this amazing track again, but before they also go out there and grab a copy of the EP as well?
It's dedicated to my friend Charlie. And I think, do you know the band Power Trip?
Yes.
Yeah. Riley had this saying of like, tell your friends you love them, because it may be the last time you do it. And that's what I wish I could have done for Charlie. Is the last time I saw him, I wish I could have just gave him a big hug and said, hey, man, take care of yourself. And, that's kind of, I hope, in some weird way, I hope maybe he hears it and he sits down and he says, yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate you too.
Definitely. Well, mate, thank you so much for coming on the show today, and thank you for being so open with chatting to us as well.
Dave, thank you. I really appreciate it. I hope all is well where you are.